this episode, you guys. We are making homemade graham crackers to go with our homemade marshmallows. If you haven't checked out the marshmallow video, I will link it in the description below. But homemade graham crackers, I've been waiting to do this. I'm so excited. I have all my ingredients. Let's do this thing and let's see how they turn out. Reference, these are the marshmallows that I made. They're still going strong. They're so yummy. I didn't think they were going to be worth it, but they make the s'more so much better because they actually melt and aren't so fake tasting or chewy. I don't know. They actually melt instead of stay stiff. So these are awesome. I'll link them in the description below. For ingredients, we got 1.5 cups whole wheat flour, 1 cup all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/3 cup chilled unsalted butter, which we will cut into small pieces, 1/4 cup honey, 1/4 cup blackstrap molasses, 1/3 cup plus separately 4 tablespoons of sugar, 1/4 cup whole milk, and ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract. In our stand mixer, I have the whole wheat flour, the all-purpose flour, the kosher salt, and the baking powder. We just pulse that together. Whether it's a food processor or your stand mixer, you can just pulse it up. If you don't have either of those, you can just use a hand, a whisk, just to make it a little bit combined, and you will set that aside. So with our 1/3 cup chilled unsalted butter, I'm just gonna unwrap these. We need to cut it into small pieces before we work it into the dough. So just toss those out. I'm just gonna chop it up. You don't need it to be too small. You just need to be able to, easily blend it into the dough. So whether you're gonna cut it into the dough mixture, if you don't have a food processor or a stand mixer, or whether you need to just whisk it in, but just get it nice and cut up. My butter's honestly a little bit softer than I would have liked, but it's okay. It's still cold enough, chilled enough that it's gonna work just fine. Usually I like to use a high quality butter when I'm baking. I think it definitely does make a difference. Today, we just have the local market stuff. It's not local butter, but it's from the market down the street. So now that we have our butter cut up, we will add this to our mix. And just start to work in the butter with the food processor until there's a coarse crumbs with the dough. The consistency of coarse crumbs. If you don't have a food processor, obviously you can just cut it into the dough and just combine it with your hands until it has that coarse texture. For the blackstrap molasses, I just have this Briar Rabbit brand. I think you could just get it on Amazon. And then I always like to use a local honey. So this is Goldenrod, and it's from the town over where I live. So it's a nice new jar. So once you have the butter cut into the dough, we add these two. You'll also want to add your 1/3 cup sugar. Next, we add in our 1/4 cup of whole milk. And then a ½ teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Get all together into a stiff dough. So this might take a while to actually mix. Once we get that stiff dough, so if you can see here, it's kind of clumps together and it's nice and stiff now, we are going to find a work surface and start working out our rectangles so that we can cut them. So over here, I lightly oiled 2 baking sheets because we'll use those to chill our dough in a little bit. But you need 2 pieces of parchment paper, one that you can put your dough on, and then you're gonna stack the other one on top. So we roll this out so it's about 12 by 15 inches. You want it to be about 1/4 inch thick. I wish I had a cuter knife to work with, but I'm just going to use a serrated knife to make the edges a little bit more customized. So I'm going to make sure it's all square and nice, and then I'm going to cut this on the edges so they have the fluted edges. Also with a fork, you're supposed to go all over and kind of poke the dough to keep it aerated. And then we will add the rest of our sugar, those 4 tablespoons that we set aside, we sprinkle so that it can be pressed into the top layer of the dough. The 2 tablespoons of sugar you're going to sprinkle on top, and then also a variation, you can add a little bit of cinnamon. I love cinnamon in my graham crackers, so I'm going to add that to my sugar, kind of a cinnamon sugar mix, and just press it into the top layer of the dough so that it's even. And once you've done that, we'll go ahead and start cutting. So after you repeated the process of rolling out the dough for the second time, for the second half of the dough, we are going to transfer them to our baking sheets like I did here, and then we freeze them for about 15 minutes before we bake at 350 for about 18 to 22 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these in the freezer, and then we'll be back. Our graham crackers were frozen for probably longer than 15 minutes, so I had them set up for a little bit. And now our oven is at 350. I'm going to pop these in the oven for about 18 to 22 minutes. And they just need to be a little bit browned on the edges, and then we will let them cool, and then we'll enjoy. The campfire's going, so we are all set to go, and I'm so excited to try these. And you can see I just pulled them out of the oven. They look literally beautiful. I'm gonna cool them on a cooling rack to make sure they get kind of crispy, and then we're gonna try them at the campfire.
Chegou, sorriu, venceu, depois chorou. Então fui eu quem consolou sua tristeza, na certeza de que o amor tem dessas fases más. E é bom para fazer as pazes, mas depois fui eu quem dela precisou, e ela então me socorreu, e o nosso amor.
I think overall the marshmallow or the graham crackers had really good flavor. I think I'm probably being critical, but I probably did them a little bit too thick, or I could have cooked them longer because they're not as crunchy, but the flavor is really rich and yummy, and definitely paired with the marshmallows. They're super. I think these are really good. The review is that they're gourmet, and this more, you definitely have to have the homemade marshmallow and the homemade graham cracker to do this, but Hershey's chocolate will just do the trick. Let me know what you think if you try this recipe. Anyways, try this, let me know what you think. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Thanks, see you in my next video, but cheers to a perfect s'more and a perfect summer night.